All right, the recording is in progress. So welcome everyone. My name is Lara Vilomat, she and hers. I am the head of outreach and community experience at the Framingham Public Library. And we are so thrilled that you're able to join us for tonight's second session of Haunted Experiences with Jeff DePaoli. Today, we're going to be featuring Barrett's Haunted Mansion with owner Mary Barrett Costello. She is going to tell us a little bit about how her restaurant transforms every year into this exciting haunt. A few quick announcements. I want to welcome Jeff DePaoli. He is formerly a local fellow, but now has kind of moved to the West Coast, but is still kind of everywhere because you're in Florida right now, right?
I am at the moment. I'll be in Massachusetts in a few days visiting my family, so I'll be up there soon.
Excellent. So I'm sure Massachusetts will be a little bit scarier for you when you're here, I hope. He graduated from Emerson with a BFA and has been obsessed with Halloween since a very early age. It is truly his favorite day of the year. He's an avid podcaster where he shares his love of Halloween with special guests on That Halloween podcast. So he will actually be leading the interview with Mary for today, and I will just be in the background. I want to thank all of the participating libraries. I was telling Jeff and Mary, there are so many that actually I don't want to list them all here because I would take most of the time. So I've just popped them all in the chat. Oop, in the wrong one. I've just popped them to the hosts. There we go. Now let's try again. There they are. So thank you so much to our participating library partners, and huge thanks to Ashland Public Library. Mina is not able to be here today, but they are our fellow coordinators on this series. And welcome to both Jeff and Mary. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, so Mary, welcome. You were up till what time last night working the haunt?
I got home about 1:15.
1:15. Well, welcome.
Yeah.
Thanks for waking up for us. Now, folks, you are looking at such a sweet, lovely woman right now, but I'm going to show you how truly demented and twisted she is when I share my screen real quickly. Here we go.
Want to be part of the show? We'll be waiting.
How lovely. You could all hear that, right? Mary, you could hear it?
I heard it, yes.
Okay, cool.
Yes.
Excellent. So yeah, that's a little taste of what you've got going on there at Barrett's Haunted Mansion. And I'm going to start, before the mansion even existed. You were born in Chicago, moved to New England in high school. And I always love to talk to people who love Halloween, who grew up in that area or eventually moved there. And just talk about the Halloween season in New England, because gosh, is it special.
Well, it so is. I mean, in Chicago, it was just Halloween. You just did your typical stuff. When I moved here and I saw how big Halloween was, and Salem, the heart of everything, it just made me realize how big Halloween really was. And it's opened up a whole new experience for me as far as Halloween. And being able to be creative with Halloween. It's the best thing I ever did was move to New England as far as that goes.
That's awesome. And now your haunt is on the property of your family restaurant.
Right.
Your dad had 14 restaurants at one point in the South Shore, right?
At one time we had 14 restaurants.
And then when did you get involved in the family business? Which was, not haunt, restaurant.
No, probably in 1974. I came home from New York, and my father made me an offer I couldn't refuse. So I've been with the company ever since.
Excellent. Now, listen, you're so sweet. And I think people have this preconceived notion of like who haunt people are, what they look like, and certain demographics and stuff. And I love that like you created this haunted house from the ground up. And obviously you're a huge Halloween and horror fan. What kind of inspired that for you from the start?
You know what? I always have loved the unknown, and I think horror is the unknown. And I was an avid horror. I mean, all my friends were reading like love stories, and I just always was reading horror. And I just love the creativity of it, and where the mind, there was no end to what you could do if you put your mind to it as far as imagination. And that's what's kept me going this whole time. The ability to change things and make people really afraid. It's just been so much fun.
Telling you folks, she's twisted. She's twisted. So
I will say, people say, wait a minute, you look like a school teacher. I mean, I get it all the time. It's so funny. And my husband, he has this saying every October, he goes, I just want you all to know she looks really nice, but I sleep with one eye open during October. So
you're like, you sleep in October? You're so lucky.
Yeah, well, no, hardly. That's true.
Oh, that's great. So when it came to starting the haunt, so this was back in 1991. So
yes.
At that point, how many of those 14 restaurants still existed?
Probably all of them.
Oh, really?
Wow. Started in 91. Yes.
Okay.
And it's so funny because the property that the haunts are on is our very first restaurant, and we're on about 5 acres there. And we built a miniature golf course there, which was very successful. And then we had a building that someone rented as a gift shop. So he decided he was done with the gift shop business, and the house sat empty. And we were all sitting around in a manager's meeting, and it was like, what do we do? What do we do? And I came up with this idea. Nobody liked it. Everybody thought it was ridiculous. So we took the miniature golf course, made it into Mount Blood, and did all of that, and then started, as everybody does when you're like me, who didn't know much about the haunt industry, found someone who gave me some advice, started with a little cubicle, jump outs, that type of thing. And it's just progressed ever since then. And it's become it's a total business for me now, where before it was just like, I just love doing it, but it's gotten bigger and bigger.
Okay, that was a lot of info you just dropped, so we're going to rewind a little bit.
Oh, sorry.
No, that's okay. So the one restaurant, you said your first restaurant, that's Abington, Massachusetts.
Yeah.
So it was the restaurant, the mini golf course, and this country store on the property.
Yes.
Okay, cool. And the country store gift shop left. You said you decided to replace it with a haunted house, and it sounds like it took some convincing. So
yes.
Did you have to convince your dad?
Yes, because he really thought it was a stupid idea.
Well, listen, a haunt is better than an empty building. That's for sure. So,
well, I don't think he was that sure of that at the time.
So what do you think finally convinced them to like join you on this crazy adventure? Was it just you wore them down, or did they actually kind of see the light at some point?
No, my dad, very, very creative, my father in his own right. So I talked to him a little bit on the side, out, not with all the managers. And he said, if you really think it can go, then go ahead and do it. And that's kind of how it started.
That's awesome. And so you took the mini golf course and you said you made it into Mount Blood.
Yes.
What did that consist of? What was Mount Blood?
Mount Blood was a miniature golf course, of course, with waterfalls. So we dyed all the water red. And then we totally put figures all around the golf course. And then we moved it over to the haunted house, so they would walk around the golf course. They could play miniature golf if they wanted to within all of these things, and then they would go to the to the mansion.
Nice. Folks, I do want to mention real quickly, if you have questions that you want to ask, feel free to put it in the Q&A chat. That is separate from the regular chat. Feel free to stick it in the Q&A chat, and then towards the end of this, if we have some extra time, we'll get to some of those questions. So feel free to fill that out if you'd like. So we get Mount Blood, and what made you think that you could really pull off a successful haunted house? It sounds like you had like I guess, were you attending a lot of them and was like, hey, I could do this
No,
better? No?
no, I just think it was just my passion for horror, and I just pushed ahead. And you know, we're all as good as the team that surrounds us, and I just got people who liked it as much as I did, and we just grew it and grew it, and we've become better, more sophisticated. Yeah, it's just something that I just loved. I loved it. I loved Halloween. I just wanted to do it so badly.
And do you have like an art and creative background at all, or?
Well, I went to RIT for art, but I saw such talent. I mean, real talent. I thought I was talented, and I'm like, oh boy, this is really not, no. So then I went to a business school and came back and worked for my dad. And then, but I did all the ads and stuff when you used to do ads for newspapers and things like that. So I still I was drawing, and this whole haunted house just let me be creative. It's so different than the restaurant business.
Yeah, and so you come in with that kind of art background, but obviously you needed to learn a lot about the haunt business. And you
Yes.
mentioned there was somebody that you kind of reached out to talk to about it. Who was that?
It was a gentleman who actually did a haunt for the Boys and Girls Club in the town of West Bridgewater. So his name was Bob, and I just called him up and I said, this is what I'm planning. What would you suggest?
Don't do
So,
it. That's
yeah, that's right. You probably did say that. Don't do it. But he just gave me like some basics, and then we just grew on those basics.
And then do you happen to remember what any of those basics were? Like, was it more business stuff or more creative? Like,
No, it was more creative. I think, are you talking about from him or from what I did?
from him?
No,
Yeah.
his was, well, it wasn't that creative because it was just cubicles and people coming out. But in back 32 years ago, and there was not even, no one even, there wasn't a haunt around here really. So it was creative, and it did its thing. I mean, we got so busy. Well, every year we made it a little bit better, but that's why I tore down Mount Blood and put it in another attraction. So
Yeah.
it grew.
Yeah. So I mean, when you just think 32 years ago and Halloween, that was a completely different scene.
Absolutely.
Like Halloween 32 years ago was basically one night or one weekend. I'm not saying that's how long you were open, but it was not the 2 month long celebration that we have today.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
how many days were you open or initially?
Well, believe it or not, we actually did two shows. We did a daytime show, and we had all of these characters that we cut out like out of wood, and we painted to cover up all the bloody gory stuff.
Mm.
So we had a show for young families, and then we would rip all that down and start a whole new show at 7 o'clock at night. So we were probably open 5 nights a week way back then.
You were doing what the theme parks do today back then. So the theme park deal today, if you think of a place like Walt Disney World or Disneyland, they'll have their daytime admission with their happy stuff. And to be fair, their Halloween parties are, happy stuff as well. It's not gory, but it's that whole idea of we can charge people for daytime admission, then we can charge people for nighttime admission, and we just basically ran two businesses on one day and made double the money.
Yeah, and you're two different markets entirely. So yeah.
And you did that in year one?
We did that. No, we did that probably year 3.
Wow. That's really early on to pull off something like that. That's great. And in the beginning, you've mentioned, you had a pretty small team. I assume this was you guys building everything yourselves.
We did. I probably for the first, I don't know, maybe 4 years, we did everything ourselves, built everything, did all the artwork. It was, I mean, forget the restaurant business. I was totally not even working that because we were over at the haunt just doing everything ourselves. Yeah.
And then, of course, as time goes on, you start bringing in a team and stuff. And I think one of the most incredible things about your haunt is that you truly change it up like entirely every year,
every
which
year.
I think for a haunt your size is that's not very typical. So I don't know, is that something that was important to you always from the beginning, or sorry,
That's okay.
there we go.
Well, yes, I will tell you, I had it, my family, my partners did not agree with changing it every year because it's costly, obviously, but we're so small in scale of haunts that I'm like, if we don't change it, why would people keep coming back here? So we have changed it every single year since we started. It's never been the same inside.
That's incredible. Like, that's truly incredible. I love that so much.
Yeah.
And you mentioned eventually, so this is what we're looking at right now, I think, is the main building. Is that
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
Okay. So, when did you eventually knock down that golf course?
2013.
So mini golf course was gone in 2013 because you felt you could make more money. What was it like, just in a place where you're like, oh, I didn't want to repair the golf course, or were you like, no, I think we could actually make more money with a second base?
Well, number one, truthfully, I hate miniature golf, so I was competing to get rid of it. But no, I mean, when we saw what was happening in this building, it was like, we have all that area over there. So we ripped the whole thing up and just got what's now condemned. And it's
not literally, it's called condemned. It's called, not, yeah. Folks, it's not condemned, don't worry.
No, literally right now it's called condemned. We saw the need for it, and that's what we did.
Excellent. So you kept growing and growing and growing, and obviously when your haunts are growing, the business is growing, you're building your team. And I know that your team, you've already mentioned it a little bit now, but your team's super important to you, and that was something I know that you really wanted to make sure people knew. So I'm sure there's many departments. Who's building it these days? Are you bringing in outsiders like construction crews to?
Nope. No? Everything. When I say this is a team effort, truly, we have a gentleman by the name of Matt Davis who works, and his team work on Condemned, and then we have Jana and Evan and Maddie and all these guys who work, Grim. There's so many people, Ross, that work on the house, and everybody does their own thing. And I think one of the reasons I have these same people for so long is I really give them creative freedom. I mean, I will say, no, I don't like it. It doesn't work. It doesn't look right. But I'm like, if you have an idea for a room that you want to see in this house, pitch it to me and you can do it. And that's what happens. And everybody takes so much pride in what they do, of course. So it's just worked for us. It really has.
So is it basically the same core team working kind of in all departments? Obviously, you've got a construction department. There's got to be design people.
Yeah.
And they're.
But they all intermingle. They're not just the builders, they're the set designers, they're also makeup artists. I mean, they do a lot of everything.
It's very cool. And of course, makeup and costumes are a big part of what you do. Getting a look at some of them here. Same people working on that side, sort of. I mean, I assume, obviously for Halloween, you're bringing in a bigger crew. You said it's about 10.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, we have a staff of like, I don't know, 142 people.
Wow.
And we hired 52 new people this year. So we have people who stay. We have people who leave. We always hire new people. We interview them. We give them questions that I don't even know how they come up with answers. They're so quick and creative. And that's
please ask me one of the questions. What are one of the questions?
The biggest one that shows the most imagination is we have 5 things on a counter. And we say to them, okay, this is like Shark Tank. We want you to sell us one of those items or 2, but not as those items. Have to be something totally different, and you have 20 seconds. And like these pair of glasses, I would have to sell you these as something totally different than glasses. They're so creative. I just love the whole process of it. It's just amazing and fun. It really is.
And what are you guys looking for with that? And is that for the
Well-
actors or like what
Well,
kind of
yes, we
position?
want to see
Yeah.
how they react when they're put on the spot.
Mhm.
We ask them questions about their favorite colors, if they could be an animal, just so we get some kind of feel for who they are and really what what would you do if something happened in one of your sets? What would be your reaction? And as soon as someone says, well, I would never come out of character, or like, bingo, that's the answer. Do you know what I mean? So it's just all these things that we know are important inside as actors that we look for. It's a process, definitely.
Yeah, that sounds like it's probably a pretty time-consuming
It
process
is.
as well. And I'm sure you have some actors that return year after year after year. And has any actor been there 32 years? I doubt it.
No, I think the longest, when we started this, we had no actors. We did it all with volunteer groups. So we could raise money through the haunted house for people who, like children with diabetes, or a school that's trying to raise money for their, I don't know, football team, or children with diabetes. It just goes on and on. So when we started this, it was all volunteers, right? And then as the busier we got, we had to, we needed better timing. And so we still do volunteer nights, 2 nights a week. Our slowest nights are Thursdays and Sundays. So
I was gonna say I went on a volunteer night last year, I feel like. Right?
I think you did.
Yeah. Or a fundraiser night.
Yeah, fundraising. And we keep our key people in the key spots even on volunteer nights, but it's a great way to let people come and have fun and raise money for a good cause.
That's awesome. Talk to me about some of these characters we're seeing on the screen here right now. Who's doing your makeup, and are the actors kind of creating these characters for you, or?
Well, what we do is if somebody has an idea for a character, they have to present it. And then we approve it or not. But with every set, we make all the costumes for the set, for the sets, and then the makeup artists really do the makeup themselves. They see what the set is, they see what the costume design is, and then they do the makeup.
You mean each individual actor or makeup artists?
The makeup artists. Some do their own, but most of them go to other people to have it done.
Okay. Yeah, these are some pretty cool makeup.
Yeah.
Here. I mean, look at this guy, and these masks are incredible.
Truthfully, I have to tell you, sometimes they come over. We have some new characters this year, and they walk in and they start talking to me, and I'm like, okay, I can't even look at you like that. So if you have something important to say, you've got to come back when you take all that off. I mean, some of them are frightening. I kid you not.
That's awesome. How often do you walk through the haunts during a year? Like when showtimes go?
Well, not very often. I go through it the first weekend 2 or 3 times to make sure everything's running the way I think it should. And then I have to tell you a secret. I do not like to be scared. And even though I know where everybody is, they go out of their way to scare me. So I am very careful how many times I go through my own haunts.
Of course, that's like the goal of every employee, right?
You bet. I almost told someone they were fired. I'm not kidding.
How did they scare you?
Oh, just so many ways. I mean, I think they know where they're supposed. I think I know where they're supposed to be, and they're not, and they come from somewhere else, or they're behind me, or they're in front of me, or it's frightening. It's frightening. That's all I can say.
That's so funny. Are any of these employees that you have, are they like, normal year-round restaurant patrons that are like, yeah, I'll join your haunt? Have you ever had that happen?
No, no one who works in the restaurants actually works there, but we've had a few volunteer, like if we're short somebody, they might volunteer to do it. Yeah.
That's so fun.
So,
do your your year-round restaurant employees, do they just love this like side business in October, or do they think you're crazy? Or a
Well,
little bit?
I wouldn't ask him that question, Jeff, because I wouldn't want to know the answer. But you know what, I'll tell you, the haunted house drives that restaurant in the month of October. I mean, it's the second busiest month we have out of the year. So everybody loves the haunted house because everybody makes more tips. You know, it's just a good thing for the whole piece of property.
What's your busiest month of the year?
June.
June, just because of the summer weather?
I mean, our patio's open, people are having parties, that type of thing. Yeah.
So you mentioned how the haunt brings in so much more regular restaurant business. You told me a funny story about your dad, and
Oh.
can you share that?
Yes. My father was sick, and we were going in and out of Boston, and he would always say, "Oh, Frank Barrett," and then they would say, "Oh, Barrett Restaurants," and my dad would go, "Yes, Barrett Restaurants," and they'd be like, "Wait a minute, do you mean Barrett's Haunted Mansion?" And then my father would be, "I've been in this restaurant business my whole life, and you're more famous for the haunted house than I am for the restaurants." It was really funny.
Success, right? Success.
Yeah, really, truly. So.
Now, I know you love to talk about your staff and everything and how creative they are and how much work they do, but you also, you're very involved with the creation of this, new haunt every year.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about, the role that you take on.
Well, I think what I do is of course I'm always looking and I'm always watching, and we always go to the haunt show in Trans World and see what's hot in the haunt industry. And then we come back.
That's just for folks who don't know, is like,
sorry. Yeah.
That Trans World is, I believe it's in Pennsylvania typically,
it's
right?
St. Louis.
St. Louis, Missouri.
Yeah.
Okay. And that happens around February-ish?
February, March, yeah.
Yeah, and that is basically like the convention to attend if you are a professional haunter or even a home haunter. It's where all of the new animatronics, the new technology, the new everything that's available for professional haunters is displayed for the year. And yeah, so you go to Trans World every year.
We go, yes, and then we buy things, and sometimes you just see one thing and all of a sudden a room has been developed, not even knowing what you're doing, but you see one thing and you're like, it just goes that way. So then we come back, we all sit down and we go over everything. And I think what I do is like I say, I let everybody have freedom, creative freedom, but I know exactly what I want my haunts to be like. And I know how, and our sets are extremely well done. There's so much detail. But I have to sometimes say, as beautiful as the set is, you're not really scaring anybody. So you always have to put the scare, people come to be scared. The people in our industry come to see the detail, but the average customer comes through there because they really want to be scared. So I am the one who's always like, okay, let's do a walkthrough. Nope, it's not going to come from there. It's not going to come from there, because I want the whole thing to be good. I just don't want my sets to be good. I want the people to be scared that are inside.
What's so funny is you say that, and it just makes me think of when I go to haunts, which I go to a lot with my friends. Like, a lot of people will always say, well, how scary is it? And I'm like, honestly, I'm like the worst judge of that. I can't answer that question just because I've done so many of them. They just don't scare me. Like, it's pretty rare for me to get scared, but I'm the person that is like soaking in the scenic elements and walking slow and like taking a look at the lighting and the sets and stuff. So it's funny to hear you say that, because that is something that, like, the professional haunters, it's easy to forget. It's like, okay, most people are not going to notice that detail you just spent 5 hours on.
Exactly.
It's amazing for the people who do it. And I think there is a lot of subconscious as well. These folks who quote unquote don't notice it, I think in a lot of cases do more than they realize. They just can't recall it necessarily.
Right. Because what I say, I'll say, well, how'd you like that room? They're like, oh, I didn't even see that room. Stuff like that, because they've got their eyes closed or they're behind their friend in their sweatshirt. But I do know that sometimes you say, what about that? And they're like, oh yeah, that was so great, but they couldn't bring it back in their own mind because so much happened within the period of time they were in there. So yeah, I think you have to scare them. You do. Not you, not me. Well, I'm leaving myself out of that one. But the people who come to really see the detail, I mean, it's got to work both ways. I mean, I love to go through my haunts and say, everything looks as realistic as possible. And that's our goal, really.
Yeah, I gotta say, when I went through your haunt last year, you had a moment that shocked me that
Oh,
I should say it surprised me so much because you had this genius. I'm going to say it. I'm going to assume you didn't do it again this year because you're always
no.
new. So this isn't spoiling anything. There was a moment of walking through the maze, and sometimes these haunted mazes can get a little confusing and you get a little disoriented and stuff. And I walk into a room, and this room is set up with, it looks like a break room, and there's donuts, and you have actors with like half of their costumes off, like they're quote unquote on break. And they look at me and they're like, what are you doing back here? And I'm like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Like, they're like, the maze is back there. You took a wrong turn. And I'm like, oh my God. And I go to turn around, and then like everything changes. And it's just like all of a sudden you get attacked. And I was faked out so insanely well. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah,
I
it's
fell
awesome.
for it hook, line, and sinker. It was incredible.
Yeah, I'll tell you, in one year we had a gift shop in the middle of the haunt, but it really
Oh,
wasn't a gift shop. And I'm telling you, people were like, well, that was over fast. Well, look at this. And all of a sudden people came out from everywhere. The exact same thing. They just really thought it was the gift shop. It's really funny.
yeah, the fake out is great. I remember going to a haunt once where like the last like room they built, and it just looked like a standard kind of hallway with neon lighting and stuff, and then there was a quick transition. But man, your fake out got me
Yeah.
100%.
Well, I'm proud of that, Jeff.
Yeah, I loved it so much, and that's like that's the thing like I'll never forget about Barrett's Haunted Mansion. So very
Let me
cool.
ask you, are you coming to see it when you come back to Massachusetts?
I would love to. I am going to deal with some family stuff, but
Yeah.
I hope I can. I'm going to look at your schedule and see if I can find a
Okay,
night to swing by.
I just need you to know there's something in the haunt this year that is so extraordinary, really. If you're in the area and you get a chance, you should just, even if you don't do anything but go in that one room. That's how
All
good
right.
it is. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I listen, you do great work, so it doesn't surprise me at all. I do see that somebody left in the comments. They're asking what the name of the restaurant is, so I'll take
Oh,
that question.
Oh,
Yeah, go ahead. No, I was
Abington
just gonna
Ale
say
House and Grill.
Abington Ale House and Grill. I said I'll take that question real quick from the chat, but please, if you do have a question, put it in the Q&A chat. It's separate from the normal chat so that we can answer those at the end.
Uh,
So yeah.
I just bringing in the restaurant. I just want to say one thing, that on Sundays and Thursdays, I think we have the best deal on the South Shore. You can, for $55, tax and tip included, you can eat dinner at the ale house and go to both haunts. It's a great deal. And it's gotten very popular. So
Yeah, I mean that's a crazy deal.
yeah,
I
it
love
is.
that. What kind
Yeah.
of food do you guys specialize in at the restaurant?
American,
American.
same food
Yeah.
that we all serve. Yeah. Yeah. Anywhere from a steak to a burger to chicken palm, that
Do
type of
you
stuff.
do you do any Halloween themed foods and stuff for that season?
Oh, we certainly do.
Excellent. What's your favorite?
Well, I don't eat it because they've got mealworms on them and all kinds of stuff. I don't,
Oh no, you do like
yeah.
gross out food
But
for the
people,
season.
well, we have a special menu, and we'll have like a chicken barbecue pizza with mealworms, or I mean, it just or we serve a lot of drinks with scorpions in them, and people just buy them. And when I say scorpions, I mean real scorpions. It's like, yeah, it's it's that time of year. People can be crazy. No one thinks twice about it.
That's unbelievable. I
Yeah.
love it. Well, so I just told you about one of my favorite scenes from your haunt last year. Let's talk about some of your favorites from years of the past. You'd mentioned something about an Alice in Wonderland
Yes, we did
thing.
an Alice in Wonderland set. and it actually was 3 rooms, and I very rarely take something into more than 1 room. But it was so well done, and it was, of course, everybody loved it. It's probably one of my favorite rooms that we've ever done in that house. There's so many though, Jeff, and because we change it every year, it's hard for me to even remember all the rooms that we've done.
Do you have like an official record? Do you have like, a binder for each year that has kind of what was going on?
Yeah, we didn't do that in the beginning, but we do that now. Yeah. It's really quite the story of pictures. I'll tell you that, definitely.
Yeah, a little while ago, we were talking about Trans World and everything, and we're saying that's February, but when do you really start planning for the following year?
Well, I say this to everybody, as soon as we close the doors here, some of my guys will be going, I mean, we were already talking about next year, honestly. So, but then they'll be like, what, I've got an idea. And I'm like, give me till Christmas. Just give me a minute. And then probably the first of the year, really. I mean, but we're never not talking about what we're doing next.
Yes, but you really start focusing in about January, and then February you're going to Trans World.
Yeah, and then we come back and we discuss what we're going to do, and then of course we have to tear everything down to start over. So that really starts in the beginning of this year. Started in February, so it usually starts in the beginning of March, the tear down. So
the haunt stays in there all year in this building. So this building here was the country store.
Yes,
right?
This was country store. Yeah.
Okay, and then you basically gutted it, put a haunt in there. The haunt lives there year round, which is pretty incredible. I mean, because you own this building, you own that land. It's pretty incredible that the haunt makes enough money to be like, yeah, we don't need to rent this the rest of the year. Like, this can just house our haunt, which is honestly a really nice situation.
Well, I will tell you, this house no longer has any running water or heat, so it'd be pretty tough to have it any other way. Yeah.
Okay. Fair enough.
It's sprinkled, right? So when the weather gets cold, we've thought about, if we could do like a Valentine's Day thing. But I can't keep it sprinkled because there's no heat. So that kind of takes all that away. We do a toy drive for Christmas between the restaurant, and all my guys dress up in like kind of scary Christmas characters, and people bring toys, and we've done so much good through this haunt. I can't even tell you. It's just it has my heart, really. It does.
I love it. And you said to me basically, like, you do it still 32 years. That's an incredible run.
It is.
For to still be run by the same people. A lot of times at that point it's moved on to a new generation, or the business is sold or whatever, but you're day one still doing it. And you said to me, you're like, I do it because I still love it, and the day I don't is kind of when you're done with it.
Yeah, that's what'll happen for sure. The day it's no longer fun or rewarding. Just hearing people come out of my 2 rooms in the clubhouse screaming and laughing, it's like, this is what it's all for. It really isn't. I mean, it's great to make money there, but for all of us, it's more than the money. It really is. It's just, I don't know. It is a real family. It's a unit.
That's awesome. So we saw that main building, which is the main haunt, the one from the beginning. When you knocked down the mini golf course, what exactly is the second haunt? Is it an outdoor thing? Did you build another building?
No, it's an outdoor thing. We bought I don't know, it's like 4,000 square feet, and it was just all metal bars. And when we first opened it, we did a whole thing of clowns. Okay. And then year after year, and Matt Davis has been very instrumental in this, we've changed it. So now the only thing that's not covered is part of the ceilings, because then I would have to sprinkle it. So you look, it's just the rooms are much bigger than the house, because they can be, and it's very scary inside, and very well done also. It's just different than the house.
When you say you need to sprinkle it, what do you mean? You need to put it in a sprinkler system?
For fire.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. And so we can cover some of the stuff on top, so you don't feel like you're totally outside. But I can't cover it all.
Cool. Now, you had mentioned your Bite and Fright deal that you have on,
Yep.
what did you say, Thursdays and Sundays?
Yes.
You also have some other specialty nights. I know some of them have passed this year already, but I'd love to talk about them anyway. Devil's Night. Let's talk about Devil's Night.
Okay. Devil's Night, we have 2 of those coming up on the 18th and the 30th of this month. And what it is, it's full contact. It's our regular show, but they can pick you up, they can take you somewhere else, they can put bags over you. I mean, it's talk about frightening, Jeff. I hate it, but it's by reservation only. We only do about 450 people for the night. And I mean, I've seen them take people and saran wrap them to a pole. I mean, it is just crazy, crazy stuff. And the other one we have is Darkness Unleashed, which is full contact, but there's no lights on at all. So you can't see anything, who's coming, what they're spraying at you. You can't see anything. So it's a special breed of people who like that type of stuff. That's all I'm saying.
And the Darkness Unleashed, I believe, has passed already this year.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. How did it sell out for you or do really well?
It did very well. It's the first one we've done since before COVID.
Gotcha.
So people love it. They all come out. They love it.
And if you're on the opposite end of the spectrum, you have a lights on tour, correct?
Yes, every Saturday. And this is for people who the kids are too afraid to go in, but they want to show them. And it's for people who really, really want to see the detail.
Yeah. I love that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm going to play a little video here from something this year. Let's take a moment to watch this. Is there any audio?
No, I'm not getting any audio.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, then let's just talk over it. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't think there is any audio in this.
So this is for Condemned, or
no? This is we theme our house every year. So because we have new T-shirts, that type of thing, and this year, and it's always our first room or our first 2 rooms. Our theme is cursed. So this is a little video of cursed. That's what this is.
Okay. And so what is this theme like? Where did this idea of cursed come from, and what are you doing? What is the maze exactly? Because this obviously isn't the maze. This is like a teaser video.
Yeah, they're just outside. Actually, the beginning, the first 2 rooms is the first one is if you go in. Well, the whole outside is done with like twigs and vines, and it gives you a really creepy feeling. And it's kind of like you're going into a witch's lair. And I don't like to use the word witch because they're really not witches in the sense of witch. And you go in, and there's all kinds of like vials of cocktails, like potions, and there's a person on the bed that's been cursed, and so the whole thing is really eerie. I mean, very, very eerie. And that's the first part of the house, the very first room of the first set.
And then what's Condemned this year?
Condemned is a condemned town where everything's gone awry, and you go through, it's just really, actually, the outside of it is phenomenal. I mean, they did such a nice job, but inside you see all these types of stores that are done. They've been like no business, and they're run down, and you go from like a pawn shop to a tattoo parlor to a diner to a hairdressing shop, and all kinds of strange things are happening in every single room you're in.
Awesome. And let's talk a little bit before we jump into some questions here. So if you do have any questions, put them in that Q&A section. We'll get to them in just a minute. Before we get to that, though, can you tell the folks listening any tips on, the best times to go to avoid crowds, and also maybe the best deals and ways to get tickets? I believe you have some certain combos, and you can do online, you can do in person.
Yeah,
Give us a little bit of
yeah.
info.
You can do online, or we sell them at the door. Of course,
Are they
it's
cheaper
less-
online?
No, they're less expensive they're more expensive online than they are at the door.
Okay.
So, when I say that to everybody, it's cheaper to buy them at the door than it is to buy them online. But the convenience of buying them online is probably 85% of all my tickets are sold online now.
Is that just because of the ticketing fees that are
Yes,
added on?
yes. I mean, the tickets themselves are the same price, but you're not paying the fee.
Gotcha.
We in our clubhouse, we have 2 scary rooms, and I set it up for a teaser. So, because if they can't get through those 2 rooms, I don't really want to take their money. And I know I should be doing it the opposite way, but I just don't do that. So they come through there, and I've lost a lot of customers because they're like, no, we're not doing that. So, so they get scared there, and that's why I like them to buy their tickets at the door, because they get to experience that, where if they buy them online, most of them get right in line. So you can buy them online, you can buy them at the clubhouse. We have a $5 off coupon on Sundays and Thursdays, but you can't buy that online. You've got to buy those tickets at the door. We have group rates for 25 or more. I'm trying to think what else we have. We do if you're an active military, it's free. If you're non-active, it's a 50% off discount. I think that's about it. I can't think of any other thing.
Excellent. Well, we got a bunch of great questions here, so let's start with those. We got about 10 minutes left or so, I think. Yeah, a little more. So Alexander wants to know, how do you and or your crew manage to keep developing new scene ideas and new skills? Where and how do you learn it? And she says, Barrett's always shows us something new and different. How do you stay so innovative? I mean, 32 years, it's a long time to create a new idea.
You know what? It's a good question. Every year I go, how are we going to outdo it? And every year we do. I think it's the ability of all of us together who want the same thing, that just keep putting things out there. I don't know how to explain it. I mean, we click on all 4, all of us together. I think that's how.
Do y'all go to like horror movie nights together or anything like that throughout the year, or kind of like no? So it's really bringing in all these separate ideas and just
I think everybody brings their ideas together when we meet. But I mean, like I say, everybody has like full-time jobs on the side, so it's so hard. I take so much of their time during the summer.
I love what you just said. I love what you just said. I'm going to stop you for a second. You said everybody has full-time jobs on the side. As if that's you know what I mean? Like, I love that, because the priority, what that means to me is the priority is the hunt, and the full-time job is the side thing to survive. Whereas most people would be would say, oh, the side gig is the hunt. But you said,
yes, and that's I say that, and maybe I shouldn't be saying that, but that's how
it's wonderful.
Really. Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
All right. The devilish red face in your logo is so striking. Did you design it? What inspired it? And by the way, we should mention, you see that's what you walk through, right? For those first 2 rooms you were talking about, was that giant.
That's the best money. That's the best money I ever spent. I'm not kidding either. It's iconic for us now, right? And I moved it over to the clubhouse several years ago. We did have it over at the mansion at one point, but it's way better where it is. You know what? The whole devil's face thing just happened, and and now I love it. I love our new logo, where it's just half the face now. 32 years ago that devil came into play.
Did you design it yourself?
A friend of myself and a friend of mine did, yes.
Oh, very cool. Awesome. I love that it's still survived.
I know, me too, honestly.
I have a question from Scott. Not sure if you really want to answer this one, but I'll read it because it's here. With about 150 employees and all the work needed to create new attractions every year, you must have a big budget. What does it cost to put on the show every year? I don't know if you necessarily want to answer that, but I'm going to assume it's probably gone up considerably from 32 years ago, definitely. But like
Oh
even
my
in the
gosh,
past,
yeah.
in the past 5 years, have you found that? I know that there was actually a big problem in the industry a few years ago, like coming out of pandemic, and
Hmm.
a lot of these haunts didn't stop, even though there was like a year off,
Yeah,
they didn't necessarily stop building and stuff. But I know, remember when like the price of lumber and everything
yeah.
went through the roof?
Well, actually, I mean, even last year, the price of lumber was just crazy. I mean, it's changed so much. You're right. I mean, I don't want to get into numbers. I don't want to do that, but it is very costly, and it's just it's more costly every year. It's more costly. But you're right. The lumber thing a couple years ago, I mean, it was enough to like for you to say, "Oh man," But
Yeah. Becky wants to know, what is the average amount of time it takes for an actor to get into full makeup?
well, we have about 8 to 10 makeup artists on, and depending on the makeup themselves, like our core actors that really get made up, they can do a great face in a half hour, 40 minutes.
How big is your makeup team? Like how many like makeup
About
artists
10.
are
We have about
about
10
10?
artists. Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, some
All
of
right.
them do 10 a night.
Yeah, I know it's funny, and I'm sure between night one and October 31st, they probably cut that time in half. It's funny how
Right,
when you
right.
start getting into the groove of these
Yeah,
things, they just
absolutely. Yeah. And you know what, by the second weekend, they're like, oh, that is the best makeup for that set. So everybody, then they're all in the same swing of doing the same thing. So
yeah. Gershon wants to know, are you located anywhere near the Framingham Natick area? I'm not
yes,
too sure.
Framingham, I would probably say is like an hour from Abington.
Okay. Yeah, I did the
As
drive last year.
I have to say, as the crow flies, I can't talk about traffic. So
I did the drive from Woburn last year, and I don't know how far that is mileage wise, but it wasn't like a bad drive or anything. I
yeah,
don't remember having any issues. So, and if you're going to come from, listen, it's the perfect scenario if you are coming from a far distance, because you not only, it's two haunts
mhm.
and go grab dinner. Like
That's
you can
right.
make a full night of
Make
it. Yeah,
make a
that
night out of it. Right.
that's the thing about independent haunts that I think is the most difficult thing is you need to create like a night out. And you see a lot of haunts, and I get it. When they start, they'll build a haunted house that takes 5 to 10 minutes to get through.
Right.
And it's like, I'm not going to deal with driving, finding parking, possibly paying for parking,
Yeah.
and all these different, jumping through all these different hoops to go experience one house. You've created like a destination. You have multiple haunts, you have the restaurant, and
Right.
therefore,
It
uh,
works, Jeff. It
yeah,
does work. Yeah, it
yeah.
does.
32 years it works.
Yeah, yeah, yes.
Let's see. Scott Stevenson asked, do you or members of your team attend the East Coast Haunters Convention?
Yes, a
As
lot of
well,
my, oh,
yeah.
sorry.
No, he also said as well as the St. Louis event. That's the Trans World, right? The St. Louis event.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's the difference between the two events?
Well, it's not as big, and a lot of my guys do go to the East Coast hunt stuff.
And that's an industry one as well. It's meant for like
Yes.
professional
Mhm.
hunters. Yeah. Alexandra asks, how has she seen customers' needs and desires change through the years? It's an interesting question.
That is an interesting question. You know what? I haven't seen a lot of that. I haven't seen a lot of that, and I think maybe because we change so much, so therefore it's not. That's a hard question for me to ask, because people come in and they leave laughing or crying or both. So I don't see a change in that. I do see that if I could find a way to make my lines not so long, I'd probably make a lot of people happier. So what we did though, we've created like shows so people can be entertained while they're waiting. We have a lot of, like last night we had 13 roamers on the grounds to entertain the people. We do what we call the rush every hour, which people love. So I haven't seen anything like that. No, I think everybody has always come for the same thing, to be entertained.
I think an interesting follow-up to that would be, have you seen the age demographic change through the years? Are you seeing younger people attend? And or when did you see a change where people wanted something more extreme, where you did create Devil's Night and stuff like that?
I think there's always been things people want the extreme, because of course I do a lot of reading about the haunt industry. I just never was comfortable doing that. Because I always think about myself, we're a family restaurant, we're a family this, we're a family that. So, but it has proven to be in demand. So, and it seems to be the fact that we're sold out. It seems to be that it's in a lot of demand, and we cut it off at such a small period of time. I don't know. I don't know.
Okay. We've got a few more questions in only about 4 minutes, so we'll get through these ones quickly. I see that on Devil's Night, you have the customer sign a waiver before they enter the maze. Why do you have them sign that waiver? So she doesn't get sued, folks.
You know why? Because my insurance company and my attorney asked me to do it. That's why.
Yeah. Could you share?
They have to prove their age. We look at licenses and everything. So.
Gotcha. Could you share about how Barrett's Haunted Mansion adapted during COVID 2020? I'm curious how your thinking and decision making was during that time as it related to Barrett's Haunted Mansion, especially since most Halloween attractions in Massachusetts were closed.
Okay,
I assume you were closed. Were you not closed in 2020?
No, well, this is what we did. And this was not my idea. I would like to take credit for it, but it wasn't. It was one of my guys' ideas. They came to me and said, well, why don't we do drive-in movies? So, because I wanted to be able to say, this is our 30th year. I did not want to be closed for a year. So we put 2 big movie screens up. It wasn't profitable. My property's not big enough, but boy, it kept us out there. Every single person who works with me in that haunt that year worked for nothing. This is what I mean about coming together, right? So everybody stayed in their cars. The restaurant, we were doing food to go only. So people would call up and order food from their phone. We would deliver food to their cars. Our characters roamed around. People loved it. And it was a huge success. And it got us into the next year.
That's awesome. I was not aware of that.
Yeah.
How long does the house run? Just October? I think it actually starts in September.
Yeah, it starts in September, the first 2 weekends in September, and we close the 30th this month.
All right. Claudia wrote, what is the quote rush? I don't know what that means.
The rush is when all of this heavy metal music starts and all of my roamers fly down from the attic. When I say fly down, they fly down the stairs and they rush the crowd. It is really quite something to see.
Very cool. Congratulations on the legendary haunt tour this year, says Nate. And one last question. Can you talk about being on the legendary haunt tour in November?
I will tell you, it's really a great honor for us to be a part of this. And my guys, it's like they won an Academy Award. Honestly, they are all so thrilled. And I just think they deserve it. They've worked so hard. I couldn't be happier that we're part of it, or more proud.
Fantastic. Well, Mary, thank you so much for this chat. I want to let folks know that if you've enjoyed my geeky Halloween conversations, I do host That Halloween podcast. I'm insane enough to do it for 31 days straight in October. So we're in the middle of it right now, where I have special guests on every single day to talk. We're creating a Halloween music playlist this year. Past seasons, we've done other things, but we're creating music playlist where each day a new song is revealed, and I have a special guest on to talk about it. So you can just look up That Halloween Podcast wherever you listen to podcasts, or check out thepodcastnetwork.com on your screen right now. And Mary, thank you so much for doing this. This has been a blast.
Thank you. I hope I see you.
Absolutely. I'll let you know. I'll definitely text you
Okay.
and let you know.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much, Mary. Thank you so much, Jeff. I just want to mention, if you all enjoyed today's chat, we would love to invite you to our next Haunted Experiences interview next Saturday, October 21st at 12 p.m. It will be featuring Delusion with John Braver. So please join us for that as well, again on Zoom. And we look forward to seeing you all at all of these fantastic haunts, and hopefully at all of our future conversations.
Thank you so much. Have a great weekend.
Thank you so much to both of you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.